What happens when you combine herring and potatoes in one dish that is that simple? I jumped on this recipe as soon as I heard about it from John because I thought it was going to take me down a particular set of steps to get to modern day recipes that I was hoping to get to, and it failed. But it's still worth mentioning. It's still a really neat little recipe, and I think that it might even be the precursor to these future ideas. So some of that's the best part about doing these videos, is tying what we like to eat, or what different cultures like to eat now, back to the 18th century and seeing where it all started. And that's what this whole video is about today. This recipe comes from Primitive Cookery, which is a really strange place to find this recipe because the subtitle of this book is The Kitchen Garden Displayed. It's from 1767 and it deals primarily with vegetables. So the interesting part about this dish is it's not even focusing on the herring, it's focusing on the potatoes. But here's the recipe. Another way very much used in Wales is to bake them with herrings, mixed with layers of pepper, vinegar, salt, sweet herbs, and water. So when I saw that originally in Primitive Cookery, this was because John was actually doing research on his potato video that he put out last week. This is a potato dish. There's not any emphasis at all on the herring, but I saw that it was a layered dish with potatoes and herring, and I thought about Townsends' Temptation. And so I thought, okay, well maybe this is leading there, even though it's from Wales and not from, Scandinavia. Maybe there's some kind of a connection. And so I started chasing down that rabbit hole, mainly because I know that there are a lot of folks who watch the channel out there from that part of the world. And I thought, well, it'd be really cool if we could actually give them a known Scandinavian dish. And unfortunately, I can't tie those things together as much as I try, as much as I want to. And I spent like a week trying to do this. I think that two parts of the world had a really similar great idea at one time. So Townsends' Temptation is a very savory dish, and I've never had it, but I've seen it made, and it looks great when it comes to the table, and people seem to really love it. I know that it's a big holiday tradition for people in that part of the world, and it lends towards a very savory, kind of comfy, vibrant dish. It's got onions, and it's got cream in it, so it's got all this fat, and it's got the flavor from the onions, and it has potatoes and scraps, which from what I understand are similar to what I would know as an anchovy. So I was super excited about that, and I would like to find a dish like that in our time period, but so far I have not been able to. This dish, however, lends towards the other side, where it's going towards the vinegar, right? So it's gonna be bright, might be a little bit tangy. And I'm gonna tell you right now, I have never tasted a dish that has fish in vinegar like this. And I'm not sure that I've ever had herring. So we're gonna give this a shot and see what happens. This is a simple, but hopefully very delicious recipe. First thing you're going to do is start with your potatoes. Now, pick your potatoes out well. Don't just grab some spuds and you don't know for sure how much dirt you're gonna taste. But I've got these yellow potatoes. I really like them. I think red potatoes would be really good for this. But just make sure that you find something that's gonna have a nice texture when it's baked. And when we cut these up, I'm gonna leave the peels on them because usually we see potatoes peeled in the time period, but in this particular book, we do see the peels staying on them a lot. And I think that that's because it's celebrating the garden. So because of that, I'm gonna leave the peels on, but you guys can do whatever you want to at home. I know in the comment section you like to say that there's more nutrients if you leave the peels on, so go for that if you like to. Oftentimes people think it's a better table demonstration if the peels are gone. So we're gonna cut these as thin as possible. If you've got a mandolin in your home kitchen, you can use that, although it might make the strings rusty. But we want these to be like almost see-through when you hold them up to a light. Think potato chips, we're just going very thin because we're gonna shingle layer these inside of our pie pan here in a little while. And we want the whole kind of goal here is that we want the potatoes to cook as quickly as the fish does, and we don't want to overcook our fish. Next, I have parsley and I have sage. A lot of these 18th century recipes call for sweet herbs. I always go to these two at least because they marry well together. They bring a lot of flavor, a lot of hominess, and they're super versatile. You don't have to be very careful with how you treat them. But you can use whatever sweet herbs that you want to. If you want to throw some thyme in here, go for it. I'm going to use parsley and I'm going to use sage, and we're going to get this minced up as finely as we can. Herring can be an issue depending on where you live. Now, I understand that there are areas of this world where it is plentiful, but here where I live, man, you cannot find fresh herring no matter what, and you can't find it frozen either. So what I'm using is a pickled herring or a salted herring. Now, they would have used that in the time period, so it's okay. They would have even used smoked herring, because as you've noticed in the recipe, they're not calling for a specific one, and that is because this is meant to be used no matter what time of year you want to use it, if you have this available to you. So if you lived close to some place where you could get herring, if you could catch it yourself, or if you were on the seaboard and you could get it at a market, then you are able to preserve that and keep that back for when times are tough. Now, I think that any of those applications are fine to use. It's definitely going to change the flavor. Now, I don't want to mix a whole lot of smoke with vinegar, so I've just got my salt pickled herring right here, and that's what we're going to use for this recipe. But you guys can experiment as much as you want to and understand none of it is wrong. Sometimes we get so focused on the hairy details of, well, is this period correct or it's not? And I think that is important. But in this particular circumstance, they had all of this available to them in the time period. And speaking of salt herring, if you're going to use something like that, you're gonna wanna soak this a few times to pull out all of the salt. This can be terribly salty. If you've got salted fish and you're not pulling that salt out, or salt pork or salt beef, it can be very troubling. This is a very simple assembly here. You sliced all those potatoes, and now we're just going to layer them. We're gonna go down the line and kind of put the near end to you over the last one as you go, so they're kind of like shingles. After we're done with that layer, because potatoes need this kind of seasoning, I'm gonna go ahead and season before I put the herring on. So salt, pepper, and then your herbs. And then you do that to taste. I like a little bit more pepper, maybe you don't. Just do it however you'd like to. Then we're gonna layer on our herring, and on top of that goes another full layer of potatoes and another full layer of seasoning. Now, at the top layer, before you season, let's go ahead and pour some vinegar in here so it just kind of permeates everything that's on the dish, and then put your salt, your pepper, and your herbs on top, and it's ready to go in the oven. Now, I've made this a couple of different ways in the past, just kind of working on the building up to this video. I've baked it at 350 and I've baked it at 400, and my favorite way was to start at 350 for 15 minutes and then bump it up to 400, because I want some of the browning to happen on the top layer of potatoes. After I bumped it up to 400, I left it for about 10 minutes and it was good to go. Modern day, we do see other dishes from Wales that are like this. We see potato and herring pie. We also see a pretty popular potato salad that uses herring, and those are both seemingly vinegary kind of dishes, at least the ones that I've seen. But you guys in the comment section can correct me or add to this, because you know a whole lot more about your culture than I do. Now, it seems like a lot of these dishes are using onions and apples as well, and sometimes begging and borrowing. Sometimes the potatoes leave, sometimes everything's there. I can't really find a rhyme or reason. As I've looked through the internet, I've seen lots of things that are similar, and it seems like the names are almost interchangeable sometimes. So have at it, guys. Tell me what's going on in the comment section. I'd really like to learn more about this. So the thing about this recipe that I don't know if we really identify in modern culture, we modify these as maybe homely ingredients or simple ingredients, but in the time period, they were poor people food. And so potatoes, that revolutionized what poor people food could look like. And this is focusing on that. Even in the primitive cookery, this book, this is poor people food. This is what they're doing. They're like, well, don't worry about the meat. We're gonna explore the garden because meat's expensive. So this is poor people food. And I don't think that you go through here and find like a nice cut of steak, but you find herrings because it's a cheap available fish to use. This reading about salt herrings is from 1797. The book is The Seaman's Guide. In this book, he's trying to figure out the best ways for men to be able to be aboard ship on sea and still have wonderful food, but he's also taking those principles and trying to apply them to the poor in England, because he doesn't feel like the poor in England are cooking very well for themselves. The best fish to carry to sea would be herrings, but they must be cooked in the same manner now, practiced by the poor people in Scotland. They soak them in water until they become pretty fresh. They are then hung up in the sun, in the wind, on a stick through their eyes to dry, and then boiled or broiled. In this way, they eat almost as well as if they were caught. The poor in England seem totally ignorant of this mode of cooking salt herrings. He goes on to say after that he thinks that this could be a solution to the poor in England if they learned only how to cook the fish correctly, that this could solve much of the poor's eating problems, although it was never put into practice. The Treatise of the Art of Baking Bread also has a really great point on potatoes, where he's talking about because of their association with the nightshades, people were afraid to eat them for a long time, but once they started to eat them, it just took off. And so basically in this dish, what we have is the pairing of the solution. These are two ingredients that can solve poor food in the minds of the English people of the time period. And it never did take off in this form like they wanted to, but potatoes took off like crazy. So here we go. This is a challenging dish for me because I do like seafood, but I wasn't raised with seafood. I was raised in the Midwest. So I'm not well versed, and I've never had herring, and I don't know what this is gonna taste like. So we're gonna dive in and we're gonna figure it out. But we did cook today in the tavern because it's freezing out in the kitchen, and this is an appropriate tavern food. So this feels good. We're gonna give it a shot right now. I don't know about this one. There, it's not, it's not the worst thing that I've ever had, but I think I have way too much vinegar, and I don't think that I really want fish swimming in vinegar. It makes me want to go to the other route and put cream, maybe some capers and onions in this thing, because the pickled fish thing with all this vinegar and taters, I don't think I'm gonna eat this one again. But I'm so happy that I made it today, and I hope that you guys like it at home.